Recording has started.
Brilliant.
Super. Yes, lovely. Okay, so I will make myself disappear, and whenever you're ready, just go on ahead. All right.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Tia. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this presentation entitled Using Co-Produced Methodologies to Develop Secondary and Reactive Interventions in a Social Care Setting. My name's Chloe Wilson. I'm a Positive Behaviour Support Advisor for the Richmond Fellowship Scotland, and I have been for about 4 years now. Just a little bit about my background. I've been in the social care sector for 20 years, and prior to this current role, I was a service manager in a supported living setting. My higher education is actually in law with a focus on human rights and equality and also healthcare ethics. And I have the BTEC diploma in positive behaviour support from Build. So that's just a bit about me, and we can get moving forward. Okay, so in today's presentation, I'm going to provide you with a short introduction to TRFS, or the Richmond Fellowship Scotland, co-production, and what that looks like within our own organisation. I'm then going to go on to present a case study on co-producing secondary and reactive interventions. Okay, so just to set the scene, I thought I would give a brief overview of who we are at TRFS. So the Richmond Fellowship Scotland are a third sector social care provider. We support around 2,500 people across Scotland, and around 220 of those people are individuals with complex needs and behaviours that challenge. Kind of in response to that level of individuals with complex needs, TRFS decided to invest in a specific positive behaviour support team way back in 2000. The team currently now is made up of 16 staff from a range of health and social care backgrounds, and we provide PBS support within our services in TRFS. So everyone at TRFS has access to support from the PBS team. And this is usually received through the person or their manager submitting a referral to the team. And this can be due to someone being newly supported at TRFS and are transitioning to a new home, or it might be a recent need for support in existing services. So some of the support that we provide is training to increase knowledge and skills in PBS. We also provide longitudinal training courses to enhance PBS skills in frontline managers and to support the implementation and the maintenance of PBS. We also undergo we can do some individualised functional assessments where appropriate. We oversee the development of PBS plans, and we also provide coaching and mentoring to support the implementation of those plans. So hopefully then that gives you a little overview of who we are at TRFS. I'm now going to share with you some of the ways we've been reflecting on our PBS supports to strengthen the element of co-production within our PBS processes. So why are we doing this? Other than the obvious moral and ethical reasons for co-production, we're actually seeing an ambition emerge towards co-production in PBS, and not just in certain components of PBS, but an ambition of embedding co-production throughout each stage of the process. So such publications as The State of the Nation, a UK definition in PBS in 2022, sets out the principles that focus on co-production. And it stated that people for whom PBS is the focus are the ultimate authorities in determining goals and support for their own lives, and that partnership working and co-production facilitate the development of PBS strategies and lead to meaningful and enduring positive change. So this presentation today is our attempt at hopefully sharing with others in PBS an example from our own efforts of trying to realise that ambition of co-production in practice. So before providing a detailed case study on how we supported co-production for one particular supported individual, I'm going to share some other examples of co-production throughout our processes. We're actually currently supporting an individual to move to their own home after residing in a hospital setting for several years. And a key element of ensuring those that support the person know them well is providing training days for staff in understanding the person and their needs. Co-production is a key component in this transition work. And we have ensured that this is prioritised by working with the person to create a presentation entitled Getting to Know Me, where the supported individual themselves has provided information on their likes, their dislikes, and how they want to be supported. Despite the person not feeling comfortable presenting this themselves, although they were given that opportunity, they are happy for the PBS advisor to do that for them. So we're still ensuring that their voice is being heard throughout that training and induction process. Another example is a young man who's being supported by TRFS, who has, over the years, developed his own interpretation of sign language. Now, this has been known to cause some confusion to those who might not know what a particular sign means, and at times has led to the person becoming distressed and has escalated into incidences of behaviours of concern. So it's so important that the way the individual expresses themselves is maintained. And the only way to protect this is to ensure that staff know what is being communicated by the individual using the signs that they use in their everyday life. So to support the team to do this, a video was created and we filmed the person in practice using these signs in his day-to-day life. And for any signs that we weren't able to see, we got his mum to demonstrate those signs on the video. And this video was used prior to a staff member supporting the individual. So ensuring that they could understand what was being communicated to them at all time, and also ensuring that that communication was met. So what will happen if the young man would consistently use these signs and they weren't being understood was that he would just simply stop using them and revert to something else, possibly behaviours of concern to express his needs or his unmet needs. So it was really important that this was put in place at the beginning of that support. Next, we have an example of a talking mat, and this was used to support an individual who was struggling to engage in activities that were scheduled as part of their social support. It was really important that to ensure the person's quality of life was prioritised, and it was kind of unclear as to why they were so disengaged. Upon assessment, though, it became very apparent that actually others were deciding what activities the person should take part in, and also that the tasks were perhaps things that the person had been doing for several years, and therefore he'd kind of lost interest and was bored of them and wanted to try new things and different things. So a talking mat was completed to gain an understanding of what that person wanted to do. And this was used to plan their support and activities, ensuring that preferred activities made up the majority of their week, but also perhaps having preferred activities scheduled after the least preferred activities. So it provided that kind of positive reinforcement. Now, talking mats is, well known as being a really effective tool and communication aid for people, particularly those that are non-speaking. The gentleman that I mentioned before, who had his own interpretation of sign language, he actually doesn't respond very well to communication aids with visual pictorial kind of images used in them. But we're actually adapting a talking mat type of format with a written word, because that's how he or the way he responds best. So we're still kind of to identify the activities he wants to do as part of his support within TRFS. We're still sort of basing it on yes, no, and maybe, but instead of the images used, like the ones on the screen, we're actually using the written word of the different types of activities. So you can see that there's ways of adapting these communication aids to get that co-production for all different people in the way that they respond best. We're also seeing some tools emerge in PBS designed specifically for the purpose of involving individuals in both the functional assessment stage and in the development of their PBS strategies. This PBS assessment tool is an example of this. It's by Davies and John Evans in 2016. And it was actually aimed to be a more informant-based assessment for children with learning disabilities to be involved in their PBS assessment right through to the implementation of their PBS plan. Now, as you can see, it can easily be used for other people, adult services in different settings. It doesn't, just because it's been developed for children doesn't mean that it can't be adapted for other users. And we'll see a bit more of that as we go through this presentation. If you're interested in finding out further information about anything, any of the resources I'm sharing, please don't worry, there's going to be a reference slide at the end of the presentation, and you can also contact me if you need further guidance around those. So I hope then that these examples show how we embed co-production throughout our processes, and we can enhance the quality of life of those that we support by using co-production. There's just the first CEU word for you on the screen, if you want to take a note of that. Okay, so now I'm going to present a case study example of how I assisted a supported individual to co-produce their PBS supports. So as you can imagine, this was not a quick nor a simple process, mainly due to the emotive aspects of behaviour of concern, but also because of the necessary trauma-related considerations that had to be made. It took weeks of rapport building, of which we could do a whole other presentation. But this time on rapport building was so necessary. And it was necessary because for the supported individual, they needed to see me as not just the behaviour person, but actually instead that I was involved to help improve their overall well-being and therefore their quality of life. Now, despite developing strategies for all stages, including primary prevention strategies such as plans related to sensory needs, communication, and skill development, today I'm just going to share how we co-produced secondary and reactive strategies. Now, the reason for this is that the higher up the kind of PBS pyramid, the secondary and tertiary levels of PBS, actually the more difficult it is to ensure co-production. So that's why I wanted to provide you with a practice-based example of how we did this and how we overcame any challenges that were presented to us. the supported individual themselves is actually going to help me do this. Now, the supported individual was very keen for me to share our work and was happy for me to record videos of our sessions, as well as helping me present this to you today. However, when it came down to it, they were a little bit unsure of their image and voice being used in this particular format. So we had to get a little bit creative. For the purposes of this presentation, the supported individual is Nicole. Everything you hear from Nicole are the words of the supported individual. They've just been voiced by someone else. So when I asked Nicole how she wanted me to introduce her, she said the following: I live in Scotland. I am aiming towards independence and to live my life as best I possibly can. I love gaming and socialising. I am popular and I love seeing my friends. I'll let Nicole say hello for herself.
Hello there, my name's Nicole. You're about to see the videos of me writing my own plans for Richmond.
So, as previously mentioned, the development of the secondary and reactive strategies took quite a bit of initial groundwork. As well as rapport building, we also had to work towards Nicole recognising her differing emotions and associating them with the relevant mood or state she's in when she experiences them. So to do this, we used Leah Cooper's zones of regulation tools. Now, the zones of regulations were originally created for use in educational settings, but much like some of the other resources previously mentioned and others that are out there, they can easily be adapted for adult use. They really are a great way for people to gain skills in the area of emotional, identifying their emotions, as well as self-regulation. So once I supported Nicole to explore her emotions related to the different zones, we moved on to complete this personalised template. Now, this tool was used to help Nicole consider what her support staff should do in response to her emotions and actions within the different zones, with the aim being to move her to or have her stay in green, because green is her baseline state. I'm going to share the audio of Nicole and I completing this template together for the yellow and the red zones. But first, I'm going to just provide you with a bit of an overview of the discussion we had in relation to the blue and the green zones, just so that we can set the scene a bit. So Nicole identified her emotions in the blue zone as being tired, sad, bored, fed up, and just a general feeling like she couldn't be bothered. In terms of what this might look like, Nicole said she yawns and she'll often completely disengage with staff. When I asked Nicole what she thought staff should do when she was in blue zone, she said that they shouldn't rush her. They should be considerate to the fact that she's feeling a bit fed up, and that they should encourage her to be positive. She even suggested they should go for a walk with her to motivate her, because she's always feeling a bit lazy and reserved in blue. The green zone was the zone that Nicole had the most to say. So this, of course, makes sense because it's easier to know how you feel when you're at baseline, and particularly because at the time of the discussion, Nicole was very much in the green zone. So she was able to kind of identify with how she was feeling in the moment. She said she felt calm, happy, focused, awesome, collected, and that when she's in green zone, she's chatty, she likes winding people up, she smiles and laughs a lot. In identifying what staff should do, I switched the question up a little bit and I asked Nicole what she thought would keep her feeling all the things in green. And she said that staff being consistent, being on top of things, and importantly, matching her emotions. So showing her that they're on green too, would really help her stay at that baseline. We then moved on to discuss what the yellow zone looks and feels like for Nicole. I'm going to play you a video that provides an audio of the discussion had between myself and Nicole. This audio is an exact transcript of the conversation. It's just been voiced by myself and a colleague, as opposed to the original audio of myself and Nicole.
Now the yellow zone. So this was a tricky zone, wasn't it? Because this is not just about you getting a little bit frustrated, even though that's part of it. This is about maybe feeling a bit silly, and maybe a bit worried.
Yeah.
So you thought that you feel in the yellow zone, frustration, feeling worried or anxious,
Paranoid about things.
paranoid about things.
Anxiety.
Yeah, worried and anxious.
Nervous.
Nervous. That was one that you said, wasn't it? Absolutely.
Frightened.
Frightened, okay.
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood. So yeah, we spoke about that, didn't we? When how do you act when you're feeling in the yellow? We said that perhaps taking jokes a little bit too far.
Yeah, yeah.
That could be in the yellow, couldn't it? So maybe saying something other people might find a little bit offensive.
Yeah.
But you don't mean it that way. It's just you getting a little bit overexcited, isn't it? So taking things a little bit far, that's how it looks, all right? So you seem a little bit antisocial when you're in yellow?
Yeah. Aggravated.
Aggravated, that's a good one. Okay, so what else did we say?
Worried.
Worried, we did say worried. So we've got that up there, that's how you feel when you're in yellow. Okay, so did we say that when you're worried, paranoid and anxious, you might talk about certain things when you're in yellow?
Yeah. I might go over the same thing over and over.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Certain things over and over again.
Then I get frustrated and I ignore what people say because I think I'm better than them.
Okay, so that's when you might start to not listen and disengage, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's excellent, Nicole. So what do you think staff should do to help you when you're in yellow? What do you think they should do?
Try to give me 5 minutes to restart my system again instead of keep engaging me to make me feel nervous and more uncomfortable.
Okay, so give you space.
Yeah, time to myself.
Time to yourself, okay.
And try to think about what to say to me a bit more.
So what would you want them to say to you?
Just things that make me more positive instead of making me feel a bit nervous and unsafe.
Okay, so maybe reassure you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Reassure me, make me feel safe.
Yeah.
Excellent. What about when staff and others maybe take things that you've said the wrong way, when you've gone a little bit too far in the yellow zone with your humour? Do you think that?
I find it difficult to get back out of that into a good state.
Do you? From yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be given space and things, but how do you want people to react if they take what you say the wrong way and you haven't meant it?
Just try and understand.
Yeah, so don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Try and understand where you were coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So try to understand your intention.
Yeah.
Because you don't mean to take things too far at that stage, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. And don't take things personally.
That's a really good one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we're finally going into the red zone.
So prior to being supported by the Richmond Fellowship Scotland, Nicole had a number of negative and also punitive responses to her behaviours of concern. You may have picked up on some of the impact of that. Things like the language she uses when she said, "I think I'm better than them," when explaining how she feels when she's moving from baseline. This really shows a need for validation of her feelings and a compassionate response from staff. Another interesting point that came out of the conversation was Nicole offering up the information about her repetitiveness. Now, this was actually something that the staff really struggled with, as Nicole will say she doesn't want to talk about it, and then she'll begin a cycle of repetitiveness around the subject she was set on avoiding in the first place. And the support staff were just at a bit of a loss, and they didn't really know how to respond to that. Actually, the staff knowing that this comes from a place of anxiety for Nicole was really important to help them respond in a much more appropriate way. So next then, you're going to see a video with the audio of the discussion Nicole and I had about how she feels in the red zone and what this might look like. Now remember, the audio is an exact transcript of the conversation held, and this zone was particularly sensitive and difficult for Nicole, and you'll hear that I check in with her when I know we're moving on to things that she struggles to talk about. I'll play the video for you.
Okay, so are you okay if I keep recording?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so how do you feel when you're in the red zone? What did we say?
Frustrated and angry.
Yeah, frustrated and really angry.
Argumentative and confrontational.
Very good.
Doesn't want to listen, get fed up with people and lashes out.
I know. Okay, so frustrated, angry, argumentative and confrontational.
Unresponsive.
Unresponsive. Okay. Do you think that's how you feel, or do you think that's how it looks?
How it looks.
How it looks, okay. And how you feel might be a little bit overjoyed, a bit elated?
Yeah.
That's another red zone thing, isn't it?
Causes you to panic and get fed up about things.
True. So there is panic. And you said that you can feel really scared, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So how does it look when you're in the red zone? So when you're elated, we were chatting earlier about that's when you think maybe you touch staff and want to cuddle them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you feel that elation. Okay. And then, how else does it look when you're in red?
Makes me angry and wants to be aggressive to people.
So aggressive.
Yeah.
And what does that aggression look like?
Ignorant, doesn't listen, and very confrontational.
Yeah, okay. So confrontational. And that's when unresponsive is, isn't it? You said you doesn't listen, you don't listen.
Yeah.
Okay. You also said, you said earlier, we've got it written down here, you said that you feel confused.
Yeah.
In the red zone, yeah? I think that's really important for people to know, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. And then there's this part here. Are you okay to talk about that part?
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes
I raise my hands and I get upset with people.
Yeah, sometimes you've hit, haven't you?
And I start lashing out.
Yeah. So lashing out. Sometimes. In the past, yeah?
Yeah.
The red zone has looked like hitting and kicking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not often.
Okay, so once we had established how Nicole feels and how she acts when in the red zone, we moved on to discuss strategies. So I'm going to play you another video before noting some key observations from that discussion.
What should staff do when you're in the red zone to make you calm down and feel okay again?
Just walk away from the situation and try to get me a bit more positive rather than making me feel more angry and aggressive.
Okay, so walk away, and how would they make you more angry and aggressive? What would they be doing?
If they do it to a certain extent.
So if they were conversing with you when you were like that?
Yeah. Or if they completely walked away and left me on my own.
Okay, so you want them to walk away, but you don't want them to completely walk away and leave you?
Yes.
Okay, that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, because I can seem like that they're just leaving me.
Yeah, so what are we talking? Leave the room?
Yeah.
And go into another room if you were at home? What if you were out in the community? What about if you were out at the shops?
Just try and calm me down.
Yeah, but not walk away when you're out in the community?
Yeah, because that would seem a bit...
Okay. So if in the flat, leave the room.
Yeah.
So what room should they go in? Should they go in the sleepover room? If you were in here, should they go in the kitchen?
Yes, but there's no need to shut the door.
You don't want them to shut the door?
No, it depends if they want to or not, but if it's by force, I wouldn't say so.
Oh, no. So no slamming doors or anything like that?
No.
No, absolutely not. Okay. So you don't mind if the door is closed or not, if they're in the other room?
Yeah, it's just when they do it too far, then I don't like it.
And what do you mean by that?
I don't mind it if they do it, but if they are...
If they do it angrily?
Yeah, because some of my staff get frustrated if I'm frustrated, and I don't understand it.
Okay, so that's something good that we should say then. So what the staff should do, so what should you do, would be not to get frustrated back at me.
Yeah, because one of my members did that.
Yeah, okay.
Like pointing fingers at me.
Yeah, and telling you what to do. You don't like that.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier, weren't we? Okay, so that would be sort of not expecting too much of you at that point. So not to expect you to follow too many instructions.
Yeah, because it seems...
Yeah, because you might feel that means that they're telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to put keep demands low, and I'm going to put in brackets, don't expect too much of me in the red zone.
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. Look at how much information we've got. That's fantastic.
I know. That was a brilliant interview.
That was good, was it?
Yeah.
Excellent. That's really good. Okay, so we're going to stop recording now. So that's us completed the zones of regulation tool, yeah?
Yeah. Have a good day.
So what Nicole said in this discussion was really interesting. In response to some of her behaviours in the past, staff had actually completely left Nicole's flat and waited outside in an attempt at de-escalation. Now, this strategy was actually functionally equivalent. The behaviour had been assessed as having an escape function, and so plans had been developed for staff to withdraw. However, that had had the opposite effect on Nicole at the time and actually increased her distress. In the video, you heard Nicole say she wanted space, but she didn't want staff to leave completely. And this distinction is really important and shows the power of co-production. With just a functional assessment alone, withdrawal from the flat would have been reasonable. However, this process of co-production provided context and specific detail as to what this withdrawal looked like for Nicole. So as useful as assessments are, and of course they will always have their role and their place, this provides clear evidence that co-production coupled with those assessments is the best way forward. Nicole also contradicted what she said about staff matching her emotions when in green. So when in red, Nicole simply doesn't understand why staff would become frustrated if she was. This reinforces the need for Nicole to receive reassurance. She is obviously relying on staff to, at that point, show stability and to make her feel safe. The last point I wanted to highlight was Nicole referring to staff pointing fingers at her and telling her what to do. And this relates to a really important consideration of Nicole's perception of the staff response. The situation she's referring to was an attempt at de-escalation by a staff member who had pointed to a chair and told Nicole to sit down. Nicole perceived this really negatively, and you can hear the impact it's had, despite the fact that that wasn't the staff member's intention. We're going to revisit that challenge in a later slide, but I just wanted to highlight it now for you to bear in mind. So then this process was not just about identifying strategies for staff to implement. It was also important for us to identify ways in which Nicole could attempt to self-regulate. And in order to do this, we completed this tool that's on your screen at the moment from the Zones of Regulation resources. Now, examples of this type of technique were Nicole identified in yellow that breathing deeply and counting to 10 would be good for her in that state. For red, she identified the need to switch off her computer and have some quiet time. It was really important to Nicole that responsibility for managing her emotions and her behaviours was shared between herself and staff. And this entire process was so beneficial in achieving that. I'm going to let you hear what it meant for Nicole.
I really enjoyed the plans that I wrote because it helps me get involved with other people that are in my life, and that helps supporting me to have a better life and sociable friendships, as well as being very helpful towards me gain independence for myself.
There is your second CEU word if you want to take a note of it. Okay, so as previously mentioned, we did face some challenges throughout the process. And so I'm going to touch on them now and discuss what we did to overcome them. The first main challenge was for us to consider health and safety in response to behaviours of concern, particularly those of physical aggression. Now, Nicole having access to plans that say things like keep your distance or utilise self-protection techniques would be really upsetting for her and actually could trigger previous trauma responses. That said, we do have a responsibility to keep everyone safe in situations like that and to minimise that risk of injury. Finding the balance between those two things were really quite tricky. Secondly, and we've already kind of touched upon this in the first point, is that these possible trauma responses for Nicole. The wording of the plans had to be sensitive to this, including the detail in which best for the staff to respond to. And finally, Nicole's perception of responses was a really important consideration. As mentioned, Nicole has often seen reasonable responses as confrontation, and that has led to further escalation. And as we've heard from the video, a lasting impression on Nicole. We therefore have to be really careful how we describe this within the plans, so not to cause further invalidation of Nicole's feelings. We don't want to have anything in the plans that basically says that your feelings towards a particular response is invalid, because that's of course not true. Perception is just as important. Now, in order to address some of these challenges, we produced two reactive plans, one for staff and one for Nicole. And on your screen at the moment is just a little snapshot, little sort of idea of the format of the reactive plans that we use at TRFS. Now, the co-produced strategies we identified were present in both of the plans, staff's and Nicole's. However, the staff's plan included considerations important to their practice, so the health and safety factors we previously highlighted. Nicole's plan included what she considered staff should do, which were also included in the staff's plan, but in hers, she also had the self-regulation techniques she identified for each zone. So when the behaviour of concern happened, they both had plans to follow. This is what I should do, and this is what, and for Nicole, this is what I should do to help me de-escalate to. Now, in order to share these reactive plans with staff, I met with the team and explained the process of the development, and I provided the context while Nicole provided the reasoning behind the identified strategies. The personal insight to her own behaviours and what she wants to happen really resonated with staff, and they were so eager to implement the plans. Now, as mentioned at the beginning of the case study, this process was not easy. A lot of time was dedicated to this input, time which, in all honesty, simply could not be afforded to everyone who would benefit from such methods. So that kind of leaves us with a bit of a question of what next? How do we repeat this with others when resources are likely to prove limiting to that? In the service that I'm currently based in, I have input with several supported individuals. And I have identified one particular person that would really benefit from this process. However, because I have to be split and my time has to be split between multiple people, I can't dedicate the same amount of time that I dedicated to Nicole to this new supported individual. So I've identified a bit of a way of easing this, and this is by upskilling key workers and/or senior support workers in utilising the zones of regulation for this purpose. And to do that, I've kind of developed a bit of a workshop using this case study that I'm presenting to you, but making it a bit more practical for the staff to get them used to the process. So that allows then the service to undergo this process and have the supported individuals benefit from this type of input and be guided by a PBS advisor, but with that being from afar. So this also aids in reducing that need for prolonged periods of rapport building that we mentioned I had to participate in with Nicole. And this really is because the workers that would be identified to undergo this kind of work, upskilling and attend the workshop would already have a good relationship with the individual. So they wouldn't have to do that initial groundwork that a sort of a BSA meeting someone for the first time would have to undergo. Now, another way to meet these challenges is, of course, to move towards a generalised co-production mindset in all aspects of support. Again, we could have a presentation just on that topic itself, or several presentations on that topic. But it is, of course, worth noting in this that that is a long-standing aim of Positive Behaviour Support Team within TRFS, TRFS as an organisation, and other organisations within the social care sector. So finally, let's go back to the case study to promote why we need to consider overcoming these wider challenges we've just identified and discussed. The impact from this process, for Nicole and staff was incredibly significant. When followed, all plans result in a level of consistency, and these plans were no different. However, in this circumstance, they were so impactful because these particular plans had the consistency related to responses that Nicole had a hand in identifying. She feels heard, and in turn, that creates a really strong trust in staff. It also immediately reduces the risk of re-traumatization for Nicole and decreases her anxiety around any possible repercussions of the behaviours of concern. It's also most definitely had an impact on rapport. Nicole had a strong rapport with her team already, but this has been strengthened by providing this joint approach to more emotive aspects of Nicole's support. And let's not forget, rapport goes both ways. So the insight into these behaviours provided by this process enables staff to have a greater understanding of Nicole's needs, and it reduces the likelihood of that compassion fatigue that we see so frequently in complex needs services. And lastly, there has been an increase in effective de-escalation and therefore a reduction in behaviours of concern. Nicole is still entering the yellow zone at the same frequency, but the co-produced strategies, as well as the self-regulation techniques, are avoiding that escalation into red on several occasions. So it's working. The plans are having that impact. And of course, the greatest impact of all has been on Nicole's well-being. She has learnt new skills around the recognition of her own emotions. And when asked, she feels like her staff understand her better. So I want to finish with this quote from Nicole before she closes the presentation for us both. Writing my own plans makes me feel responsible for myself and confident in what I do.
Thank you very much. I really hope you appreciated and enjoyed this conversation. I also wanted to say thank you to the other professionals who might be watching this. Have a nice video and have a nice day.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening. This is a reference list that I spoke about. So if you need anything, and my email address is on the introduction slide if you want any further guidance in accessing anything. So yeah, thank you very much. Stop sharing my screen. Oh, I can't hear you.
Typical. Doesn't matter how many years I use this, and I will continue to forget to unmute myself. Thank you. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Of particular note, I think is probably 2 points that I took. The first being that the more complex the context gets, the harder co-production gets, and there's a danger therefore that we sort of because something's hard that we don't know how to do it, that we stop trying.
Absolutely.
And I do think there are sometimes situations where we kind of think, well, that's good enough, because it's to go any further would be incredibly difficult. And I think we probably need to challenge ourselves as a profession a little bit more on getting creative. I loved some of the creative examples you used. But probably the biggest one was the distinction between the two iterations of an escape function. And I frequently worry that one of the things that we're doing as a field is oversimplifying human behavior.
Yes, absolutely.
Not intentionally, not because we don't care, but actually because we do care. So we want people to understand it. So we want to give them some information. And in order to do that, we need to make it accessible and understandable. But as a natural byproduct of that, we have to try and simplify what is in fact incredibly complex. And I think that the beauty is in the nuance. So obviously for Nicole, yes, it's escape, but it's not just any old escape. It's a very particular kind of escape, whilst remaining in a safe psychological state and whilst feeling supported and in very particular context. So I really liked that example. I think that was a very tangible example of the nuance necessary when we talk about functions. So yeah, I thought that was awesome. Thank you so much, Chloe. I'm going to stop
You're so welcome.
recording now. Hang on a moment.